There's a very real chance that Nico Iamaleava doesn't play for Tennessee on Saturday against Georgia, which on the surface sounds as if like that is the game. That is the chances of Tennessee winning, and there it goes by the wayside that it's just not going to be in the cards. And it's a big deal because it's essentially a college football playoff elimination game. Tennessee wins, Georgia doesn't have a shot to be in the 12. Georgia wins, they're going to move up, and they've essentially cemented themselves as being in the college football playoff because you know what? You got wins over Texas and Tennessee on your resume. There's a pretty decent chance that you're locked in. And it would be seen how far does Tennessee fall? I don't know the answer to that question. And we might not need to know the answer to that question. But if Nico Iamaleava doesn't play for Tennessee on Saturday, is there a pathway to victory for the Volunteers? I think so. Yeah, I think there is. If I'm a Georgia fan, do I want Nico Iamaleava to play? Not especially. But him not playing might put Tennessee into playing more into their strengths. Because Tennessee's got a great running game. A really great running game. And it probably hasn't gotten enough love and publicity throughout the college football season, where I especially have talked a lot about Ashton Jeanty, where I think Ashton Jeanty is by far and away the best running back in the country, and as well, he would get my Heisman Trophy vote right now. And Ashton Jeanty has had a great season, but Dylan Sampson has had a great season for Tennessee. 1,100 yards, averaging 5.6 yards per carry, 20 touchdowns. He has put the ball across the goal line 20 times. Tennessee can run the football. And Tennessee can do the other thing that 85% of coaches would tell you is the key between victory and defeat. They can run the football, and they play great defense. You look through Tennessee's schedule, you know how many points the high is that they've given up in 2024? In a time in college football where offense is king, where the only thing that matters is how many points you can put on the board. And hell, some teams aren't even all that interested in playing defense as much as the idea that we can outscore our opponent. And that's all we got to do. As long as we can put more points on the board than they can, we're going to go ahead and do it. Tennessee's given up 19 points as the high. Now, that was the game they lost to Arkansas, but it was 19 points. 19 points is the high. So, a team that has a really good defense and a really strong running game, if you're forced to lean on your running game and rely on your defense, I would feel pretty comfortable in that situation if I was Josh Heupel. Oh, so you mean to tell me that with our starting quarterback out, and we're going to be forced to play Gaston Moore, who is obviously unproven in his college football career, has thrown more balls this year than he has any other time in his tenure. He has 25 attempts. Do you feel super strongly putting the game in Gaston Moore's hands? No, probably not. And that's just not something that, like, hey, would you like to put in this senior who's thrown the ball 45 times in his college career against a team that is pissed off after coming off a loss and is essentially fighting from a corner for their college football lives? No. It's just probably not going to chuck the pigskin around 45 times with Gaston Moore. But that means you have to rely on your running game. You have to rely on your defense to go win you the game. And when those are the two things that you are best at, sometimes taking that extra added temptation, because Nico Iamaleava is an added temptation. He's a kid that can throw the football really well. 65% completion percentage this year, can run just a little bit too. Getting the ball in that player's hands is an important spot of the game plan. It's an important thing to do. We want to make sure that we have our best players with the football in their hands. But when push comes to shove, and it's big time football, a lot of coaches will tell you, you run the football and you play great defense, you are much more likely to win the game. And so, if Tennessee is forced to rely on their running game and their defense, you have to like the chances, right? Especially a defense that is performing really well going up against a quarterback in Carson Beck who isn't performing well. He has not played well over the course of the last couple of weeks. Now, Tennessee doesn't force a ton of interceptions. They've got 8 on the season. So good for 1 a game. Carson Beck is good to, depending on the night, is good to give you 2 or 3. So baiting Carson Beck into turning the football over, I don't think that the pathway to victory narrows dramatically for Tennessee if Nico Iamaleava doesn't play. He's listed on the availability report as questionable. I get the impression that he's going to give it a go. That it's going to be if he can walk, he can play on Saturday night against Georgia. But because the stakes are super high, I mentioned it is essentially a college football playoff elimination game. Whoever wins is going to be set up that as long as we don't have a gigantic letdown, we're going to be all right. And whoever loses, if Georgia loses, they're definitely out. If Tennessee loses, there's some talk and some finagling, but I wouldn't be shocked if they are not in the college football playoff top 11 after this weekend. But Carson Beck has shown a penchant to turn the football over. And I don't know that Georgia has played a defense as good as Tennessee's this year. They have played some good defenses. Alabama's a good defense, a very good defense. Texas is a good defense. Tennessee's real good, especially when you look at the fact that the most they've gave up is 19 points. So, can the Volunteers still win the game against Georgia on Saturday if Nico Iamaleava doesn't play? I think the answer to that question is yes. But it certainly sounds as if he's going to try to give it a go. And if he can't, I don't necessarily know that puts Tennessee in this really bad spot that I think your immediate reaction would be is like, okay, this dynamic quarterback's not going to play. Boy, that's going to be a tough one for the Vols. I don't necessarily think that's a 100% slam dunk thing. But it's going to be real interesting to watch on Saturday night. Want to know your comments in the comment box below. Nico doesn't go. Vols got a shot? Let me know. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Huddle.